It's Nolan. It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. I told y'all earlier today, be on the lookout, get real comfy, get real used to Jay-Z, Tony Buzbee, Alex Sparrow, Rock Nation. Now we got Team Rock. I told y'all, get used to this being a subject over here because they are going back and forth. They playing a hard-ass game of tennis. They going back like Venus and Serena. Man, Jay-Z and his team, Alex Sparrow, Quinn Emanuel, they filed new paperwork against Tony Buzbee as of today. I just got the filing. These niggas are in X Games mode. Oh boy. So now Jay-Z has issued an order. Well, I won't say issued an order, but he's requesting an order from the judge for Tony Buzbee to show cause, and more importantly, for the preservation of evidence in this case. Basically saying, we do not believe that Tony Buzbee is honest, and now that he's been exposed, we think that he's going to try to start destroying evidence that is relevant to the lawsuit and this case at hand. Come on, man. Let me go ahead and share my screen. We got to get to it, man. This is getting real interesting. Destroy evidence? I wouldn't be surprised. Because now, like I said, they on their ass. Jay-Z's team already has, they seem pretty confident. You saw in the press briefing, somebody asked if he knew, as in Alex Sparrow, the identity of the accuser. He didn't say we don't know the identity. He said we will not unmask her at this time. So that tells me they're more privy to what people might believe. All right, y'all. It's crazy that my channel has become like lost inside the lawsuit. This shit been inside the lawsuit for like a month. Man, between this stuff, between goddamn, really about 2 months. Damn near 3. This, Megan and Milagro, man, it's going down. All right, let's get to the real stuff. United States District Court, Southern District of New York, Jane Doe, that is the accuser, versus Sean Combs, Daddy House, blah, 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 and Sean Carter. We really don't care about Diddy right now because none of this is really about him. This is just Jay-Z trying to clear his name. Defendant Sean Carter's memorandum of law in support of his emergency motion for an order to show cause and in order for the preservation of evidence and to strike the complaint and dismiss Mr. Carter from this action pursuant to Fed Code R Civil P 12F. So he not only wants him to preserve the evidence, he wants this shit completely thrown out. We've been knowing that. But all of this is now in one thing. And remember, the judge still has not responded to the 3 to 4 previous requests, but Alex Sparrow is continuing to document this and keep requesting. And I think this is creating a paper trail for the judge to understand the urgency of the situation, to understand how impactful these allegations are to Jay-Z's reputation, his business dealings, and the good standing of his name in the industry in which he works, which is mainly comprised of good faith and good name in the public eye. They even got a table of contents on their bed, man. I ain't seen one of these in a minute. But we'll go through it. Table of authorities. Blase, blah, blah, blah. Here we are. Defendant Sean Carter respectfully submits this memorandum of law in support of his emergency motion for an order to show cause and an order for the preservation of evidence and to strike plaintiff's complaint pursuant to Fed Code 12F1, as we just stated. And I will say that just really quickly, a request to show cause is basically the legal way of saying it's a request to show proof and show reason as to why this was filed, in simplest terms. So here's the preliminary statement. admissions by the plaintiff and damning admissions by her own father in a December 13th revelatory NBC interview cast yet further doubt on a claim that was obviously false from the start. So they wasted no time. They say, hey, they went on TV and perjured themselves. The timeline, location, and occurrence of events alleged in plaintiff's complaint are rendered impossible by these admissions. She claims her father picked her up after the assault, he ever taking that 5-hour trip. She claims, I guess they meant never took that 5-hour trip. She claims she spoke with musician Benji Madden that night. He was not even in New York. She claims the assault took place at an after party hosted in a private residence. Photos show Mr. Carter at an after party at a nightclub. When pressed by NBC, plaintiff was forced to admit, I have made some mistakes. I may have made a mistake in identifying. Not all the facts there are as clear. And even that she was guessing about key details, including the time it took to reach the venue. What's more, she admits she does not have a single corroborating witness over the last 24 years. So this is low-key reiterating everything that Alex Spiro said in that press briefing just yesterday, or 2 days ago, I should say. Plaintiff's unsupported allegations crumble under scrutiny as the evidence and lack thereof reveals glaring inconsistencies and outright impossibilities in her story. Her account describes a jumbotron at the scene of the music VMAs, but according to NYPD sources and MTV producers, no such jumbotron existed. MTV applied for a permit to install one, but was denied. She references a house that supposedly fits the description of the location of the alleged assault, but no such house exists. And plaintiff's allegations become even more dubious when considering the nightclub evidence. Photos from the night in question show Mr. Combs and Miss Jennifer Lopez at both Lotus and Twirl clubs in New York. NBC reported that photos separately show that Mr. Carter was at Lotus following the VMAs. Taken together, the factual inconsistencies, timeline impossibilities, and the lack of corroborating evidence make plaintiff's allegations in the FAC wholly unreliable. Okay? Not only do these extraordinary inconsistencies undermine plaintiff's case, they highlight severe misconduct by her counsel, Anthony Buzbee, and the Buzbee law firm. Unable to escape the foundational cracks in plaintiff's story laid bare by the NBC interview, Busby was forced to backpedal, repudiating the very allegations he signed his name to. In an attempt to deflect from his own failures, he foisted blame on another law firm, claiming the case was vetted before it was sent to his firm. And so concerned is Busby that he is now having his client sit for a polygraph, which is a lie detector test. I don't even know if they admit those in court. The takeaway is obvious. Busby failed to undertake a reasonable inquiry into the facts before filing the complaint and then amending it to assert a claim against Mr. Carter, despite an affirmative duty to do so under Rule 11. But that was just one step in his cavalcade of misconduct. Though he has signed his name to pleadings and other documents filed in this case, Busby has declined to seek admission to this court, apparently seeking to circumvent the court's authority to enforce Rule 11. So, hold on. So, they've said this multiple times. So, all of this stuff has been drawn up and drafted up. But when you say it hasn't been admitted to the court, I would think that means that he hasn't sent it to the judge. He's just utilizing the paperwork for public scrutiny. I don't know. Somebody that's in the legal field, y'all gotta let me know if I'm deciphering that correctly, because he said this in the last 3 filings. Busby's rule breaking also extends beyond this action. He has a long history of abusing the legal process and shirking ethical responsibilities. In a case in California Superior Court, for instance, Busby was admonished by the judge for violating pretrial rulings. As a federal court in Texas rejected a fee arrangement orchestrated by Busby and his firm because it violated public policy. I decided to go check out admission for court real quick just to get a little bit more clarity. I know y'all say, "Hey, Nolan, you should get an attorney to come on here and go through this stuff with you." Well, where they at? Shit, man, the folks I know, they don't do this content game. They say, what is the purpose of request for admission? The purpose of request for admission is to narrow the issues in a pending action by establishing the truth of any matters that the parties agree on before the trial. Included among the issues that parties can add in a request for admission are as follows: statements or opinions of facts, application of law to a fact, genuineness of any documents described in the written request. This process helps determine genuine issues and the case's aspects in dispute. It also limits the scope of the trial and eliminates undisputed matters. The requesting party should serve copies of documents together with the request unless these documents were available to the opposing party for copying or inspection during the trial. The request for admission can be served to the plaintiff without leave of court after the civil case begins. For any other party, that request for admission can be served with or without leave of court after service of the summons and complaint. So there's the description of admission. Again, I only pull it up because they've mentioned it multiple times. Okay? We just went through that. So the fundamental inconsistencies in plaintiff's case revealed in the NBC interview, coupled with Buzbee's chronic inability to follow the rules in this case and others, creates a substantial risk that Busby will destroy evidence damaging to plaintiff's case. Hold on, what is these people on? All right. So they saying he's breaking substantial rules, right? Inability to follow the rules in this case and others creates a substantial risk that Busby will destroy evidence damaging to plaintiff's case, including evidence of his own misconduct, impairing the integrity of the judicial process. An order immediately mandating the preservation of all evidence relevant to this case is necessary to ensure that Mr. Carter has a full and fair opportunity to present his defense against plaintiff's fictitious claims. That Busby is not admitted to this court and thus is apparently attempting to avoid its disciplinary authority only underscores the pressing need for such an order. For the same reasons, all of plaintiff's allegations about Mr. Carter are scandalous, warranting striking them from the FAC under Fed Code 12F. Okay? So now they outline the misconduct that's taking place. Busby filed this lawsuit on October 20th against Mr. Combs and his associated businesses on behalf of an anonymous Jane Doe plaintiff. The initial complaint alleged that Mr. Combs, along with other unnamed male celebrity, great plaintiff at an after party held at Mr. Combs' home following the VMAs. Rather than name Mr. Carter as a defendant when the original complaint was filed, Busby resorted to a campaign of extortion, seeking to extract an exorbitant sum in private mediation and threatening to go public with false and outrageous allegations that Mr. Carter raped multiple minors unless Mr. Carter acquiesced. Mr. Carter refused. It was only after this attempt to squeeze Mr. Carter that Busby filed the FAC, adding Mr. Carter as a defendant and alleging that he was the previously unnamed male celebrity. Now, in the other allegations that Busby is holding on to, I think he has a man as well, or a young man. So it's not just this little girl, because Jay-Z's lawyer said that they had also threatened to bring out a man as well, which really sounds crazy. The FAC alleges that on or around September 7th, 2000, plaintiff attended an after party in New York City, purportedly hosted by Mr. Combs, at a large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway and a large living room or foyer. At the after party, the FAC alleges plaintiff recognized many celebrities, which included people like Fred Durst, Benji Madden, and others. The FAC then alleges that she was drugged and then set as aid by Mr. Combs. The FAC also alleges that Mr. Carter was the previously unnamed male celebrity B, who was purportedly S8 plaintiff. After the incident, plaintiff allegedly left the party and went to a gas station where she called her father, admitted that she had lied about her whereabouts, and asked him to pick her up. Plaintiff's father then purportedly arrived to pick her up shortly before dawn. Just 5 days after Busby filed the FAC containing these scandalous allegations, NBC News published a story containing excerpts of interviews that its reporters held with plaintiff and her father and presenting other information that severely undermines the merits of this lawsuit. For example, NBC reported that photos of Mr. Carter from the night of the purported assault show him at a nightclub in New York called Lotus, which has no resemblance to the white residence with a U-shaped driveway and a large living room described in plaintiff's FAC. Photos from that night also show that Mr. Combs and Ms. Lopez attended parties at two nightclubs on the night in question, Lotus and Twirl. Further, despite being sure she talked to Benji Madden at the after party about his tattoo, The Last Supper, because she had a religious background, so it was something to talk about, Mr. Madden was never there. And she threw that in there, talking about her religious background. Well, what God you serve that told you to come do this? He did not attend the VMAs, did not attend the purported after party, and was not even in New York at the time. Instead, he was halfway across the country in the Midwest on tour with his band Good Charlotte. Finally, though the FAC alleges that plaintiff called her father to pick her up from a gas station following the assault, he denied that happened. This denial was damning. In fact, he told NBC he was unaware of his daughter's assault allegation until the week he was interviewed. So he had never even heard of this thing until right before the cameras got cut off. That's craziness to me. How you gonna have your daddy come on TV and he don't even know what you talking about? NBC reported that he has no recollection whatsoever of picking up plaintiff on the night of the VMAs. And plaintiff and her father were living in Rochester at the time, which would have required her father to drive more than 5 hours from their home to pick her up on the night in question, an event that no father would forget if it actually happened. Her father admitted as much, telling NBC, "I feel like I will remember that and I don't. That's something that would definitely stick in my mind." Her father recalled one instance when he picked plaintiff up in the middle of the night, but he said it was a local drive, i.e. in Rochester. Again, I don't doubt that something may have happened to this lady when she was a child, but it doesn't sound like it's connected to what Tony Buzbee and them have placed in their report. Now, again, Busby has been revealed to have taken unrelated cases and filed them and just started to include Diddy and Jay-Z in these cases. I would not be surprised if that's exactly what's happening here. And he's gotten this woman to go along with the story because now they in too deep. Moreover, Busby effectively admitted to NBC that his firm failed to conduct any investigation into the merit of plaintiff's claims prior to filing extraordinary allegations of child rape against Mr. Carter. Busby seeks to shirk his Rule 11 obligations and foist blame onto another law firm for the glaring inconsistencies exposed by the NBC report. Rather than conducting his own due diligence to vet his client's claims, Busby merely relied on the purported vetting of another firm, telling NBC Jane Doe's case was referred to our firm by another who vetted it prior to sending it to us. But no one from the firm signed the pleadings in this case. Busby did. His failure to investigate the claims violated Rule 11. Further, as explained in the letter that Mr. Carter filed with this court on December 13th, in the more than 8 weeks since he signed the initial complaint in this case, Busby has failed to seek admission to this court pro hac vice, thank you who told me how to say that, in an evident attempt to avoid the power of this court to enforce Rule 11 and other rules against him. Busby's misconduct and other lawsuits. Busby's gross violation of Rule 11 in this case and his failure to comply with this court's admission requests are just the most recent examples in a long line of litigation misconduct. For instance, Busby and his firm were recently accused of violating the rules of professional conduct by 3 former clients for his deceitful conduct. December 13, 2024, misappropriation complaint, Exhibit 2. December 9th, 2024, misappropriation complaint, Exhibit 2. November 19th, 2024, malpractice summons. What is more, according to a former client of Busby, the Busby law firm dropped her as a client after she resisted the firm's efforts to pressure her to adopt a false narrative of her experiences as a victim of trafficking by celebrities unrelated to this case. Specifically, the Busby law firm pressed her to confirm that she was drugged, held down, pushed, and physically assaulted. All false details sounds very familiar. Moreover, she was repeatedly asked for a connection to Mr. Combs, though she made clear her case was unrelated to him. And already in this case, he violated Rule 3.4E of the New York Rules of Professional Conduct, prohibiting attorneys from threatening to present. Is that rain? God damn, that shit slapping like an organized noise beat. What the hell? It ain't even rain. It sounds like I think that's leaves rustling. Leaves going that hard? Sure. All right. Where were we at here? 3.4 Rule E of the New York Rules of Professional Conduct, prohibiting attorneys from threatening to present criminal charges solely to obtain an advantage in a civil matter by making such threats to Mr. Carter to extract a settlement prior to bringing frivolous claims against him in the FAC. Busby also has a track record of employing suspect tactics to gain an unfair advantage in the course of litigation. Because Busby frequently serves clients on a contingency fee arrangement, he has a personal stake in the outcome of his cases and has demonstrated his creativity in stepping over the line to promote his own interests. In a notable case, federal court invalidated a referral agreement between Busby and a known fact witness in the case as invalid as a matter of public policy, which entitled the witness to 15% of the gross attorney's fees awarded if Busby's client was victorious. See Haywood versus University of Pittsburgh, blah, blah, blah. In another unscrupulous tactic, in order to get a case heard in a favorable venue, the Busby firm submitted venue pleadings and a client affidavit characterized as, at best, incorrect and at worst, fraudulent. Damn! At best, incorrect and at worst, fraudulent. After the defendant's counsel notified Busby's firm that his clients misrepresented facts that affected the trial court's venue determination, Busby unilaterally non-suited the case and refiled a substantially similar case in another favorable venue. This dude really just be throwing shit anywhere. It's crazy because he's won some very high-profile cases. He's won multiple millions of dollars. They say he's got like a damn near $300-500 million practice that he's running out there in Texas. So he takes some big swings. He hits some home runs, but he also strikes out. Finally, Busby has demonstrated a lack of respect for and willingness to violate judicial orders. In one case, Busby baselessly accused former baseball player Scott Erickson of being to blame for a murder while representing criminal defendant Rebecca Grossman. He falsely claimed Erickson was the driver who hit and killed 2 young boys and was hiding in the bushes after the fatal act despite no evidence to support his assertion. They digging deep. This is what Tony Busby's been fighting against. When he come out and say that they've been investigating him and harassing him, this is the type of information that he didn't want to come out, especially not on a high-profile case like this. So you tried to pin a murder on former baseball player Scott Erickson, although you had no evidence of the act. Prosecutors accused Busby and his team of unethical behavior, stating they were making a mockery of the justice system. The court said that. The presiding judge rebuked Busby, declaring, "We cannot have the defense violating pretrial rulings," and exposed the jury to evidence that contradicts those rulings and reprimanded him for his conduct, stating that if it continued, the court would consider financially sanctioning Busby, which is a penalty, which means it's a fee, and reporting to the state bar, which would put his ability to act in court in jeopardy. Legal standard. All participants of a lawsuit, including attorneys, have an unassailable duty to preserve evidence that might be useful to an adversary. Anyone who anticipates being a party or is a party to a lawsuit must not destroy unique, relevant evidence that might be useful to an adversary. Where there is a risk of destruction of such evidence, the court may issue a protective order directing preservation of the evidence. Now, what I want to go ahead and say here is Jay-Z is the one under attack here. Jay-Z is the one who they're saying SA'd this child in the year 2000. So why is it that Jay-Z is the one here asking for y'all to preserve the evidence? You would think somebody that's being accused of a crime would want all evidence destroyed. Get that out of here. I don't need anything that makes it look remotely close like I did. He said, no, keep everything. Don't let nothing slip through the cracks. How many guilty parties have you seen say keep all the evidence? We saw Diddy. That motherfucker started calling people around. Hey, come lie for me. That nigga started using other people's prison codes. Hey man, let me use your phone time. I need you to lie for me. This nigga Jay said, man, keep all the evidence. Courts often apply the 3-factor test articulated in Capricorn Power Code to determine whether such an order is appropriate. Okay. This test evaluates the level of concern that the court has for continuing existence and maintenance of the integrity of the evidence in question in the absence of an order directing preservation of the evidence. 2, any irreparable harm likely to result to the party seeking the preservation of evidence absent an order directing preservation. And 3, the capability of an individual, entity, or party to maintain the evidence sought to be preserved, not only as to the evidence's original form, condition, or contents, but also the physical, spatial, and financial burdens created by ordering evidence preservation. A critical element in issuing a preservation order is the existence of a risk rather than certainty of evidence destruction. Okay? So granting a preservation order where defendant raised concerns regarding the possibility that evidence has been or will be spoliated, emphasis added. Nonetheless, evidence that is integral and essential to a party case may require a preservation order. Though the issuance of a preservation order is by no means automatic, such orders are routine in cases involving electronic communications where the moving party demonstrates the relevance of the evidence at risk. Rule 12F permits a court in its own or by motion made by a party to strike from pleading any redundant, immaterial, impertinent, or scandalous matter. It permits the court to strike matter from the pleadings on its own initiative. Where the court strikes allegations from a pleading on its own, the court has considerable discretion to strike scandalous material. So basically, bring everything to the front and let the courts decide what should and shouldn't be issued as evidence. Argument. An immediate preservation order is warranted because there is a substantial risk that key evidence will not be preserved. Okay, and I believe that they are reiterating some of the things that we've already spoken on. Okay. Revelations from the NBC interview have Busby reeling and have established at minimum a very high likelihood that Busby violated Rule 11 by signing the FAC. That interview exposed that the claim against Mr. Carter is meritless, and Busby all but concedes that he failed to vet plaintiff's allegations before filing this lawsuit or amending it to include Mr. Carter by seeking to place blame for his shortcomings on an unnamed law firm who allegedly referred him to the case. In other words, Busby has been caught red-handed violating rule. Imagine writing that to a judge. He's been caught red-handed violating Rule 11. Violating Rule 11's ongoing duty on lawyers to conduct a reasonable inquiry into the facts and the law before filing. Busby is now backpedaling and pointing the finger elsewhere to distract from his own self-evident violations of the rules. He even publicly endorsed the idea that his client should take a polygraph test, a stunning thing for an attorney to say outside of a privileged conversation. Under these circumstances, and in light of Busby's misconduct in this lawsuit and others, it must be assumed that Busby will go to extraordinary lengths to conceal his ethical violations. There is accordingly a significant risk that Busby will seek to destroy documents or other evidence that would demonstrate that he knew or should have known that the allegations in the complaint were false. To prevail on a motion for a preservation order, the movement need not show that the opposing party will destroy evidence. The movement need only show that the evidence is in some danger of being destroyed absent court intervention. So they're saying just the possibility of evidence being tampered with or destroyed is enough to request a preservation. Okay? This requirement is often met by demonstrating that the opposing party has lost or destroyed evidence in the past or has inadequate retention procedures in place. Here, several considerations establish far more than some danger that Busby will destroy relevant evidence. First, the NBC News report makes it extremely likely that Busby failed to properly vet the claims. His willingness to blatantly violate that core ethical obligation of all attorneys raises the serious possibility that he will seek to destroy evidence documenting his actions. Second, Busby's utter disregard for his obligations as an attorney, namely his violation of the rules governing admission to the bar of this court and his violation of Rule 11, raises significant possibility that his law firm has inadequate retention procedures in place. Third, as explained in Mr. Carter's December 13th letter to the court, Busby is apparently attempting to circumvent this court's authority to enforce Rule 11 by refusing to seek admission to the court, despite the fact that he has signed the complaints and other filings. Fourth, Busby's disregard for the rules in other cases underscores the need for a preservation order here. For instance, in a federal case in Texas, Busby orchestrated a fee arrangement with a known fact witness that the court struck down as invalid as a matter of public policy. So we talked about a lot of this stuff already. They saying this motherfucker is going to try to destroy the evidence. He going to try to cover his tracks and moonwalk up out of here like a real smooth criminal. Okay? And they saying we not letting that shit happen on our watch. Is there anything else that we have not covered in here in these final 2 pages? Let me see. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Absent a preservation order, Mr. Carter's right to conduct full discovery will be irreparably harmed. So there's always a discovery process when it comes to these matters. Following the NBC report, it is clear that Busby filed the FAC and its allegations of child rape against Mr. Carter without so much as a cursory investigation into the factual merit of his client's case. These allegations have caused incalculable harm to Mr. Carter, his family, his business, his employees, and his legacy. I said that the other day, with all the different people that he works with and people whose livelihoods depend on him being who he is. To defend against the fictitious claims advanced by plaintiff and Busby in this case, it is imperative that Mr. Carter be allowed to pursue all avenues of discovery permitted under the federal rules of civil procedure. Given that Busby has already ignored his ethical obligations in this case, the court cannot rely on Busby to abide his duty to preserve relevant evidence. To ensure Mr. Carter receives fair discovery, the court must impose a preservation order. Okay, the burden on Busby to preserve evidence is negligible. The third element of the Capricorn power test, the ability of and financial hardship to the party if required to maintain the evidence, is easily satisfied. This is not a case where the plaintiff is likely to have a large quantity of documents or any significant storage or data retention costs associated with preserving evidence. Accordingly, any burden on plaintiff and Busby would be minimal, and on balance, the significant and irreparable harm that Mr. Carter will face if the evidence is disposed of before trial outweighs the moderate financial burden Busby might endure in order to comply with the preservation order. So they're basically saying it shouldn't be that much evidence no goddamn way, because y'all ain't got shit. But whatever it is that you do have, any communications and different things, because of course, if there's any communications that happen between Busby and the client that would be nefarious, encouraging lies, or manipulating in any kind of way, that would be relevant to the court. The court should strike the complaint as against Mr. Carter pursuant to Rule 12F. And here they just say that these allegations are just for harassment and scandal, and basically wanted to strong arm him out of money. Okay. So that's Jay-Z. As of today, Alex Spiro coming out once again swinging from all cylinders against Tony Buzbee. This shit has become a soap opera. Like, we're getting daily updates from both sides. Like, Tony Buzbee, he took a little weekend, you know what I'm saying, a little weekend trip. But what do you know? He came back this morning. Now he's suing Rock Nation because they investigating him. Talking about they've been knocking on doors, offering people between $1,000 to $10,000 to sue him. Now, Alex Spiro, Jay-Z and them, they coming back and saying, hey, man, we have reason to believe this motherfucker might destroy evidence before we even get to trial. Please request that it's preserved. I can only imagine what's going to happen tomorrow. Because Alex Spiro, that motherfucker in that bitch, he typing like he trying to get his guam up. He like, man, I just typed 90 words per minute last week. I'm going for 160 today. This motherfucker just typing. I know the judge already tired of this shit, man. He like, man, I ain't even answered y'all last time. Y'all still on me? I get to y'all niggas at New Year. But of course, even if they do, Spiro, what it seems to me, he just wants all of that paperwork to be readily available to the judge to say, okay, they're serious about this. This is an urgent matter. At the end, they requested a court date. I forgot to put that. I forgot to speak on this. Conclusion. For the reasons stated above, a preservation order is necessary to ensure that the plaintiff and her counsel, Busby and the Busby law firm, preserve all evidence relevant to this case, and given that the NBC interview revealed the meritless nature of the allegations against Mr. Carter, the FAC should be stricken under Rule 12F. As such, Mr. Carter respectfully requests that the court issue the attached proposed order to show cause, ordering Busby and the firm to show cause as to why a preservation order should not be issued and why the FAC should not be stricken, and Mr. Carter dismissed from this action, and to set a hearing on this motion for Thursday, December 19th. They want a hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mind you, the judge has not answered any of their previous requests, and they saying, bitch, I want to show up tomorrow at 9 a.m. to get this thing sorted out. It ain't going to take you but about 10, 15 minutes to look through this bullshit, see that it's not real, and we can go about our lives. Let's do it. These niggas is aggressive. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. These motherfuckers said we will come to the courtroom tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll be there sharp, suited, booted, tied up, recruited. We ain't losing. Plus, Tony Buzbee, he's not even cleared to practice law in New York, so that also would place him at a disadvantage if he had to show up to court tomorrow, because he would have to apply for pro hoc vice, which would allow him to come to New York and be recognized as as within the bar, because of course he's not barred in New York, but you can request that you could come practice on behalf of your case. But they know that he can't get that by tomorrow morning anyway. So again, this tit for tat. I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one, man. I'm sure there's gonna be more soon, because we've already got a handful that I never expected. Wow. This shit will be forever remembered. 2024 is the year of beef, battles, betrayal, and buffoonery. I'm going to catch y'all later. Peace. King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rags. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef on computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. But drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they died of me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I've been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.